Mark and I are back. We apologize for not being as consistent recently. Work and moving and everything has gotten in our way a little bit, but we're back. We're going to do a podcast today. We're going to do pre-games for the next two games as well. We'll probably just do a little bit of a pre-game in this one for the Ducks game. And then we have some trade rumors to get to, some lineup changes, and some prospect news that Mark has for us. So let's start off with the Leafs' new look lines. And I think we're all pretty excited. I'm going to speak for Din too. He was very excited.
He was kind of most excited.
Yeah. This is what we talked about in the previous couple podcasts, is like what could happen if you spread out the lines a little bit more. And it's also just shows like if there's a way to go out and get a top six guy. And there was a fake little thing on Twitter about the Leafs making trade offers for Claude Giroux, which just,
I think that started with our pod.
Yeah,
that was my guy.
Yeah, and you'd have to get them to retain on at least half, which means you're throwing in more. Plus, it's like they're franchise guys, so it's going to take more to get them off the team. Elliot Friedman was mentioning something like Colorado. Which would be a scary thought because Colorado is doing amazing. But I mean, let's just for fun look at the Leafs lines and then look what a guy like Giroux would do to the Leafs lines. So
we're gonna really tease ourselves like that.
Yeah. So the first line: Bunting, Matthews, and Kasha. And what we've talked about in this podcast a lot is how Matthews can do anything with anybody, and Bunting and Kasha are a long ways from just being anybody. They're two guys who've shown that they can play in the top six, play in the top six well. And Matthews was scoring with those two on his wings. Matthews was scoring with Bunting and Simmons on his wings. So he'll be fine.
I think it also shows just how much how well Cash has done this year that they're thinking of just putting Bunting and Kasha with, I guess just Kasha with Bunting and Matthews.
Yeah.
So
And I also liked how they've been handling Kasha, just like any inkling of an injury. They're like, no, just sit, like we don't want to play you through anything. It's fine. And then hopefully we'll have a healthy Kasha for playoffs because he is a top six player. And what an amazing, if we could go out and get another top six guy, we'll get into that. But the second line, Kev finally getting his wish, and the top six playing with Tavares and Marner.
He's earned it.
Yeah. And that's going to be a really fast line, and Tavares isn't going to have to be the guy who's first in at all because he's got those two absolute weapons on his wings. Mikheyev's showing that he can finally score, so that's going to be an exciting line to watch for. And I feel like Mikheyev too is going to be like, I need to prove this is like my chance to prove that I belong here. So he's going to be extra motivated, and because if he can stay there playing with Marner, Tavares, Nylander, Tavares, doesn't matter. He's going to put up a shit ton of points, which will be millions of dollars made for his next contract.
Yeah.
Not with the Leafs.
The season, that was the big questions. He said, I want to be a top six guy. And everyone was wondering, can he be?
Yeah.
So this is going to be huge.
Yeah. Huge for him. Huge for his next contract. It's going to literally be $1 million chance for him, Third line, Kerfoot, Kampf, and Nylander. And what's crazy is this was essentially replace Kampf with Galchenyuk. That was our second line in the playoffs against the Habs last year.
Yeah, really?
So
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, and this is our third line. Like, how our team's going to defend against? Like, it just... Anyways, that's a lot of speed there too. It seems like Tavares and Kampf, because they're not quite as fast as the guys on the wings, it's going to be perfect because they can play third man in, which is also good for a centerman because being third man in, he can play more of a defensive role, which is something that we're lacking right now. Which is just going to be amazing, and it allows Nylander to do a little bit more because he's playing with such a defensively sound centerman. Although it's not like Tavares isn't, but Tavares is also a little bit more invested in the offense, whereas Kampf can just be like, no, do your thing, guys.
It'll be really interesting to see how Kampf does with those two guys.
Yeah, this is a big
that'll be interesting.
Yeah. And then the fourth line, Engvall, Spezza, Simmons, finally getting a little bit of speed. Engvall's been so like Din and I were talking last episode, just like he's either like awesome or just noticeably bad. Engvall is one of those guys, like he'll either take a stupid penalty and give away the puck and have terrible games, or he'll just be like, how is this guy not consistently like not a top 6 guy, but like a top 9 player?
Yeah.
And it's nice to have speed with Spezza and Simmons because those guys aren't the fastest anymore. And we saw with Clifford playing with them, just wasn't fast enough. And Engvall is a fast dude. So that'll be interesting too.
Yeah. Just a solid fourth line.
Yep. And then you got Richie on the bench. Richie and Clifford.
Yeah.
That's a lot
Two
of
good
meat
rotational
on the bench.
guys.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of money on one of them.
Yeah, exactly. But now let's get the defense is looking the same. Let's get into what our team would look like. Let's just I don't think we're getting Drew. I don't think we're getting Drew. And I don't think I would want to pay the price to get Drew either.
Yeah, because he's essentially a rental.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, like there's a difference between going out and getting a guy who's just on a team versus a guy who's been on a team his entire career and is loved by the fans in the organization, because you're paying a premium for guys like that.
Yeah.
You know, so I just think that it would cost a little bit too much. And there's other guys that you could get. Drew's been playing amazing this year and he's getting older, but let's just for fun, look at the lines that I created.
His contract's up at the end, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the Philly fans would boo him if he went back and played with another team in that building?
No. I was looking at Philadelphia Twitter actually because of the rumors and stuff of him being traded, and everyone's just like, they're blaming the Flyers for letting him down. Essentially, they're like, wow, we've wasted his entire career, basically. Because the Flyers, they were good. They were making it to the conference finals and stuff. That was the Jeremy Roenick's, the Eric Lindros's, like all of those guys. And then Giroux came and they had good teams, but never bad enough to like go. And then one year that they were bad enough, they got Nolan Patrick and he sucked. It's just like, I feel for him a little bit, but anyways, so let's look at what if Giroux was on this team. So I made up some fun little lines here.
Okay.
So I think you could keep Bunting, Matthews, and Kasha together.
Yeah.
Your second line could be Kerfoot, Tavares, and Marner. Your third line could be Mikheyev, Giroux, and Nylander. And then you put on the fourth line Spezza, Kampf, and Robertson, Simmons.
Oh my gosh. That just sounds
That's
insane.
A Stanley Cup winning team. For everyone in the comments, who would you rather? Would you rather the Leafs go out and get a centerman or a top 6 winger that can like make those lines that scary? Or would you rather them go out and get a top 4 D-man to shore up our defense? Because it's not that I think. You can only get one. There's only getting one. You're either getting a depth piece, unless you're trading away everything.
Get a top 6 forward and then like a Bogosian. Like that's a cheap
but
option,
I don't think the Leafs defense needs a depth defenseman, because we already have enough of those. We need someone, if we're going to go get one, in my opinion, and people can disagree, my opinion, needs someone to go with Muzzin, because Hall is just not that guy.
Yeah.
And Sandin, probably a little bit too young, not ready to be thrust into that role. I'd much rather have him on
He's made huge progress, but he's still not like a top 4 yet.
Yeah. So I think you can only get one. So everyone, let us know what you think, if it should be a D-man or if it should be a forward. But no one is going to disagree. Yeah. It's going to cost too much. Unless there's some way you can offload like Richie, Hall, and Dermott all at the same time, you might be able to do it. But or you could give up Mrazek or something, like there'd be something that I just wouldn't agree with, because what if Campbell goes down? Then you got Joseph Wall. And
so that's the one thing I was going to bring up later was getting rid of Mrazek. You wouldn't be getting like much back, but look at all that cap space.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like Campbell has been shown that he's injury prone, and we've been playing him way too much recently. It's kind of caught up.
Just starting to show. Yeah.
So we don't want to do what we did to Anderson. So by the time he got to the playoffs, he was burnt out. He had played like 60 games because we never had anyone to back him up and play consistent time. So I think you keep Mrazek at least this year, and then you can reevaluate, see if Joseph Woll's ready to be a backup. But it's a lot of cap space, granted. But you don't want to walk into the playoffs with Woll being your backup, because if you're going to invest all of that into going to get a top 6 guy and a top 4 guy, or even just one of them, it's like, and then Campbell goes down, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, like you're done. But yeah, everyone let us know what you would rather, if you'd rather a top 6 forward or top 4 D-man on the Leafs. I personally, and then I want to get your thoughts. I personally am leaning a little bit more to a top 4 D-man, although if they went out and got a top 6 forward and didn't get it, or got like a guy like you're talking about, Bogosian, to go in on a depth piece that you could maybe slot into a top 4, I wouldn't be upset. It's just, I think I would prefer them going out and getting like a Mark Giordano or Josh Mance.
I still feel like that's been our biggest weakness, and it's still not fully there yet. Is our defense. I'm definitely leaning towards getting a defenseman. I'm all in on top 4.
Well, and the other thing to consider too is, what was our problem the last 2 years in the playoffs? It wasn't our defense. Well, injuries. Well, not the Columbus year. Well, I guess Muzzin. But like our issue was scoring.
Oddly
weirdly
enough.
So if you're going to go get a top 6 guy, I would either like it to be a younger guy who's maybe a little like another year cost controlled or something like that, or a guy who has proven playoff success. Like whenever a team would go out and get Justin Williams, it's like you're guaranteed that he's going to score 4 goals around, you know? And like, that's why I really liked Downtown's point about Joe Pavelski, because he's done amazingly in the playoffs. He's a veteran. He's low cost. Probably wouldn't cost too much to get him. You could slot him in top 6. You can slot him in top 9. He can play on the power play. Like, he's good at faceoffs. Like, all of these things. That's the kind of guy that I would want, because I think Giroux would cost a little bit too much.
Couldn't get it done with Big Joe, so we got Little Joe.
You got Little Joe.
Love that.
Couldn't get it done with Marlowe. Couldn't get it done with Joe. So we might as well go to the next one. Then we'll get Couturier someday. He'll come over someday. And then we'll just keep going through their cast-offs when they're ready to.
Oh my gosh.
So what are your I know you want to talk about a little bit about Klingberg, because you saw him.
Well, I wasn't going to bring him up today, but I still see little rumors here and there that the Leafs are looking at him. And so we talked about him, but I have 3 other names that are just coming up everywhere recently. So I'll get your take on them. The first one, they're saying they probably won't let him go, but apparently there's some big interest. And that's a person that we're going to face tomorrow, Josh Manson, defenseman on Anaheim.
So why do you say that they probably won't let him go?
Just like, he's 28. He's one of their like top defense. Well, I don't know if he's their top defenseman, but he's just valuable.
Him and Cam Fowler are their top 2.
Yeah, and their fan base is saying like, we're trying to make the playoffs and we need him. Like, how could we get rid of him? And then everyone else there's just these trade rumors going around saying that teams are asking like what it would take to get him.
So the interesting thing about that is the Anaheim Ducks are playing in the worst division in hockey right now. If you look at, it's also interesting, I mean, we can get into a little bit, is the Eastern Conference, the playoffs are set.
Yeah.
Like, there's not going to be any battles for the final wildcard spot. It's going to be Boston in the final, Boston and either Pittsburgh or Washington or the Rangers if they fall off. But like, no one else is Detroit is the closest one. I think they're 6 points off. with a few games in hand. Boston has a few games in hand. So it's pretty much established. In the Western Conference, it's very different. There is it's completely wide open, but the Ducks are 3-7 in their past 10. And as Dan and I were talking about in the last episode, it seems pretty established, like that the system is saying in Anaheim, we have a lot of young guys. Zegras has come in. I forget their other rookie that they have who's playing absolutely amazing. Troy Terry. And we have a lot of young guys who are coming up, and this team is on the verge, but we're not there yet. And I compare them to last year's Nashville, where Nashville at the trade deadline, everything, where we're like, are they going to be sellers? Or are they going to be buyers? Because they were fighting with Dallas for that final wild card spot. They ended up making it, but no one thought Nashville was going to win.
No,
not even Nashville thought Nashville was going to win. It was kind of like the Leafs when we went against Washington, when we just squeaked into the playoffs. When Matthews' first year,
no one gave him a chance.
Yeah, and that's fine. You know, they're a year or two away. They're probably a year away from making the playoffs, and then 2 years away from being contenders. Because they're going to have a shit ton of cap space because Ryan Getzlaf is coming off the books. Raquel is going to need another contract. I can't imagine it'll be too much higher than what he was last time. Manson is coming off the books, and that's one of those things where, for them, because they're 2 years away, trading Manson for probably not a pick, but probably for a guy like Robertson.
It would probably be a prospect, right?
It'd probably be a prospect who's 2-3 years away from being part of their team. That's
their identity right now. It just seems like it's all these young guys coming up.
So
if they just keep adding to that, like they're just investing in their like future team where he won't be as valuable in 3 years.
He's 31, 32.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's one of those things where you could always they could always resign Manson if he likes it there in the offseason, because they're going to have the cap space, but they could still go out and get a prospect, get a pick. So I think it's very doable to get someone like Rickard Rakell if you're going to go after the top 6, or a Manson if you're going to go top 4. I think I don't think the Ducks are going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to keep kind of following. And I think by the time the trade deadline hits, or even before, they're going to be looking to sell. So Manson would be a guy I really like. Klingberg, it seems like they're asking for too much.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is like,
they really don't want him to go.
And they don't, like, Dallas is going to be fighting for a spot. They are a team that is going to make the playoffs, and they are a team that only a couple of years ago, they made it all the way. Like, they're not a bad team, and they're a team that has success in the playoffs because they have a playoff style team. I just think it'll cost too much. And I also, if we are going to get a top 4 defenseman, I would prefer it being a guy like Manson, who's more defensively sound.
I really like his play.
And he's big guy. He plays in the Klingberg is a little bit, he's more offensive, and we have Sandy and we have Riley to play on the power play where Klingberg is best.
Now, I saw some tweets about that because I thought everyone would be on the same page. Like, you get that stay home defenseman to help like center Muzzin, and there's this group that just keeps saying, no, we need an offensive defenseman to go with our style of play. What do you think of that?
I just think that we have Riley and Sandin for that. But I mean, you can look at the Colorado's model where they have all their top 6. Every single line has a defensively sound guy, and they have an offensively sound guy. So they have Cale Makar and Taves. They have Girard and Johnson. Girard has offensive, Johnson's, and then I forget who their third pairing is, but it's another one similar to, I think it's Byram. And that seems, obviously it's working well for them, although their defense isn't the best. But I would prefer a guy who's more defensively sound, because we already have our power play defense shored up. You know, like we already tried Tyson Barrie. You know, we had that guy and it just didn't seem to work out. We played Tyson Barrie with Muzzin for a bit. We played him with Riley for a bit. He never seemed to stick. And granted, Klingberg is a better, more veteran guy than Barrie, but that's the kind of offensive thing that I just don't think that we need. Although if there was a reasonable price and we got Klingberg, would not be upset.
He's still a good defenseman.
I just think
All
that we
right.
can do better.
Yeah. So now I have two more. This one is kind of weird. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I like him, but I just for the right price. It came from Elliot Friedman saying that Toronto has interest in Ben Sherratt, and that they've looked at and asked to get him before, but it just didn't quite work out at the time. The interest is still there because he's a local guy from Hamilton and could be a good pairing with Jake Muzzin. So what do you think of that?
As long as it didn't cost a first. That's what they're saying right now. When I was looking at that, is that it's probably they're probably going to be looking for a first, and I think probably some team will pay it. I think the Leafs can't because we've done it too often, and I don't think that he's worth a first. I think Manson you could probably get for a first and a low end. Like you might as well go get someone like that. But I will say Ben Sherratt in the playoffs last year was one of the reasons that they made it that far. He's a big guy. He plays perfect defensive hockey. If you could get him for a second, yeah, I do it all day. But you also know when you're making trades between two original six rivals,
they're not going to make it easy.
Yeah, there's no discounts. Like let's say
unless you're platonic.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't a discount. They paid a second rounder for a guy who was washed.
Yeah, you're right. Oh my God.
Let's say a team like Seattle, bad example because they're not making the playoffs. Let's say a team like Colorado wants Ben Sherratt and they offer a second round pick. And the Leafs are like, hey, we want Ben Sherratt. We're going to give you a second round pick. They're going to take Colorado's because they don't hate Colorado like they hate us. They're not going to want to help us make the cup. So that's the thing, is just like how much it would cost would definitely matter. I think there are those dynamics, although with Montreal's new GM might be a little bit different, but I'm sure it would be a bad look for him if he gave a discount to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
His first move, trading to the Leafs.
Yeah. So I would like him, but it would definitely have to be the right cost. So who's your next guy?
All right. And then the last one is a guy I don't know a lot about. We just played him, and that is the defenseman on the Islanders, Mayfield. He's only a 1.45 cap hit, just $1.5 million. And they're saying like he's 29 and he'd be an upgrade from Hall to pair with Muzzin. So how would you feel about like a discount kind of defenseman like that? Do you think he's good enough?
I would have to look at his advanced stats because I'm not going to lie, I don't know too much about Mayfield. I do think that's like someone where you're getting into the 4-5 range, where since it is a cheap cap hit, like if you can go out and get him and then you could go get a top 6 guy, that would be the type of player that I would want, because he can play with Muzzin, maybe. And if not, you put him on the next one, you try Sandy. Like you have options. You have, and then you have Dermott, Liljegren as your extras. Could be worse.
Yep.
And Hall, depending on where you want to put him. But it seems like that could be moved to address both needs, because then you could go out a little bit later when salary caps are a little bit lower, and you could go get a top 6 player, shore up, like make that offense absolutely elite. And then you could still get away with having Mayfield back there. But I can't say 100% what I think because I haven't looked at his advanced stats. But for our next episode, we'll both get to that. Who knows? There might be a trade done by then. It's Dubas. But we'll take a closer look at him. But that's it seems like that could be a option where you could go get both.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's the big trade rumors that are going around recently. All defensemen.
Yeah. And I wanted to just quickly address Richard Fitzsimmons. You've commented on a few of our posts, and are you related to Mason Appleton? I've got to ask, because every comment you're like, I want Mason Appleton. What is it about Mason Appleton that you like so much? I get it. He's fast. He's like a grinder. You can get in there. And I agree with you. Him on a fourth line, giving some speed with Spezza and Simmons or whatever you want to do there. I just don't know how much of an upgrade it is over Engvall, depending on what you have to do to go out and get him.
Yep. Oddly enough, he's a guy on like NHL 19, 20, and 21. I always traded for him because he was a high rated prospect in
Yeah.
Chell.
Yeah. And I always liked the way that he plays against the Leafs because I never watched many Winnipeg games other than that. But he always played like really hard against, and he is fast. He is very fast. So it could be a guy. I just personally don't think that like a depth piece is what we need, because I think if you can go get a top six, everyone slides down. Right. And if you could have a guy like Mikheyev or who else? Mikheyev slot down and make that fourth line. But you could go out and get a top six guy to play on a third to even make those lines super elite.
Yep.
I like that. But your point about getting you really want Jacob Chikrin too. I just think that it's gonna cost a little bit too much. And I've been in a bit of a disagreement with Mark and Din about like what our window is. And I just think that I would rather roll with the guys we have than go like, that's a big move because he's their top one or two defensemen for the next 3-4 years. You know, that's a big move and it's going to cost a lot to do it. And every team in the NHL is probably looking to go get Jacob Chikrin, and who I actually mentioned to Din, which I don't know if you watched last episode, Mark, but I said Boston would be the perfect place for Jacob Chikrin. That's the missing piece that they need because they have no one to play with Charlie McAvoy.
Oh my gosh.
And
I'd be so upset if he went there.
Yeah, that would be a scary thought because they have guys that they can trade. They have prospects. They have draft picks. And it's another thing where their guys are getting older. So their draft picks in 2-3 years might be worth more because they might not be the same type of team. That's like, I think a team like that would be willing to give more to get a Jacob Chikrin, which is why I don't think the Leafs do it. But I'm not going to be upset if they do. I would rather personally a guy like a Manson to come in for a year and then you sign Sandin, you sign Liljegren, and you grow with the guys we have, because even though Chikrin has an amazing contract for the type of player he is, that's going to cost a lot. And what you do need in the Leaf system is guys that can come up and fill the role at a very low entry level deal to play in the top 9, right? You need guys like Nicholas Robertson to come up because we pay way too much for our top 4. You're going to need guys, and there's not going to be Jason Spezzas forever. There's not going to be guys who are 37, 38 years old who are going to sign minimum contracts and still play at a top 9 level, you know, like maybe because you're the Leafs, you can continue to get that. Maybe guys like Pavelski sign, you know, maybe Giordano signs after this year. Like maybe you can continue to do that. But I think that's a little bit of I just prefer the Pittsburgh model where they just continuously have entry-level guys come in and just prove who they are and never really mortgage too much of their future. But that's just my thought. We appreciate your comment. It's definitely something to think about. Mason Appleton, I would like him on the Leafs. I just think that we have other needs. If you could get him for something cheap, hey, if you go trade Nick Ritchie and a third for Mason Appleton, done. You know, but yeah. What's your thoughts on that?
On
Chikrin?
Like I would be awesome, but I think I am starting to lean back and say I think we could get someone like Mason for way cheaper, and I'd be just as happy to get him. Yeah, because he would still be good even if he was just here for a year. But he's someone that you could probably sign. Maybe
Leafs couldn't. I don't think they could because
he's probably not thinking about it now. But I think I would still want Mason just because we wouldn't have to give the whole. Yeah, we wouldn't have to give too much away. Like Chikrin would cost a lot.
Yeah, when there's other teams who have more of a need for him, who are going to be more desperate, who can offer more, and in a bidding war with teams like that. Yeah. I just don't see
the price. I think it was like Florida already bid for him and it was like crazy amount. Like we can't keep up with that.
we can't keep. I mean, maybe we could, but yeah, it's tough. But that would be a scary looking top four: Riley, Brody, Chikrin, Muzzin. Wow.
Yeah, it would be nutty.
Yeah. Does your gut tell you that we are 100% going to get a top 6 or top 4, one of those players within the next couple weeks or near the trade deadline?
I think it's going to be closer to the trade deadline, but like in 3 weeks after that, like anywhere between that middle to late, like middle to closer to deadline, I think. I don't think anything's going to happen like signing wise, but I could see us selling off a player or maybe two between now and then.
Yeah.
But then we sign later a player.
The interesting thing with Nick Ritchie is like he was already on waivers. No one wanted him. So which means he has absolutely zero trade value. So
you could be like in a package deal.
Yeah. And it would be like, we'll have to give you more to take him.
Yeah, exactly.
So that makes it tough. I do really like Kerfoot's. I don't want to see him go.
I really want to keep him.
Yeah, he can play really well shorthanded. He can play in a pinch at the center position. I still like that Domi deal that I mentioned last time.
Yeah.
I still think it makes sense because you would have to give up very little. He's a free agent at the end of the year. Who knows? He's the type of guy that you could be like, hey, man, no one wants you right now. Like you're making, I think it was like 5.6 or 5.1. This is his final year. And he could be a guy where it's like, sign with us for a year at the cash up price, prove yourself, and then get your big contract again. Because at the end of the year, he's not going to get much more than that. You know, so you're basically, you could get him for 2 years for playing basically nothing.
And for doing, he doesn't even have to touch the ice and he's already a legend.
He's already a legend.
Like, you have both old and young fans that would already know who you are.
Yeah.
And just for the name.
Except he did chirp Toronto pretty hard when he was in Montreal.
Yeah.
That was rough. But that just shows the type of like, personally, I'm like, yeah, if you're going to be on a team, you might as well, like, what are you going to say? Like, oh no, I really like Toronto, our arch rival.
Wish I went to Toronto.
yeah. Montreal would actually murder you.
Yeah.
So I'm not upset by that. I know some people were put off by it. Him chirping Kapanen, like stuff like that. I just like, and imagine having him bunting on a line. Like, anyways, that's the kind of deal. If you could get like, Domi and a Mayfield, cool with me, you know. And that wouldn't cost much at all. You know, so that's my thoughts on the trade rumors. We hope that we answered your guys' questions on that. Now you had some prospect news.
Now we get to the more exciting part where it's players we already have. And I remember at the beginning of this, like one of our like first couple podcasts where we talked about prospects, we're like, we've never really had any in the last while. And like, we have a few that might be coming up, but now I'm actually getting excited about some of these guys. Cause the first one, like Ty Voigt, is just been killing it. He's like the talk of the town right now with the Sarnia Sting. He's just killing it, and so it's finally like a really exciting prospect.
5th round pick too, wasn't he?
Late, and he has 42 points in like 30 games, and they're saying it's not all like padded stats, like it's that 5-on-5, and like he's just looking awesome. So he's one guy who's still like a while away from coming, but he will get there. And another guy, Pontus Holmberg, a Swedish player we have in the SHL. He just got called up to the Sweden Olympic team. Nice. So he's the youngest guy on their team. And there was something else, but we have a few players that are going to be
proven playoff performer in last year's SHL playoffs. He did amazingly. He was on the team where I think we had a goalie on that team too, but I could be wrong. And he absolutely killed it. I think he was their leading scorer or second leading scorer on the team that made it to the finals. I could be wrong on that, but and then who's the next guy?
But just to finish up on him, he's been like a rag to riches kind of story, which is kind of neat. I've been reading about this year. He has 28 points in 34 games.
Amazing for the Swedish Hockey League.
Yep.
By the way, yeah.
Oh gosh, I just lost it. Where did we draft him? It was really late. Anyways, he was in the third tier division, and now he's like a first liner in the SHL, and now
overall.
Yeah. And now he's going to the Olympics, so it's just awesome for him.
Yeah. Speaking of Olympics,
our boy, yep, Josh Hosang. Yeah. We get to watch him in a Canadian uniform.
So awesome.
What if he kills it over there?
Oh, he will. He
will. You already know he's going to. He's going to be like second in scoring, and
yeah.
Then he's going to come back and be like, I think I'm out playing AHL.
I'm ready. You guys don't need a top 6 forward because I'm right here.
Yeah. Still got to get him on the pod.
Yeah.
And then the last one is, well, I guess there's two. Matthew Nyes. Mm-hmm. Is he on the U.S. team in the Olympics? I think so. Yeah, he's in the U.S. team. Nice. So we have 3 at minimum that are in the Olympics.
And I feel like I see a Matthew Nyes highlight goal every day on Twitter.
Yeah, they just keep popping up like crazy.
Yeah.
And then the course of course, we have to do our Topi Niemela left off Team Finland after having one of the best seasons by a defenseman over in Europe. So very disappointing in Finland. Shame on you.
Yeah, shame on you, Finland. Well, they just don't want to win.
Yeah. They wanted to take it easy on everyone.
Yeah. Oh, that's sad. Okay. Well, they must have some good defensemen, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. It's always exciting to see that we have prospects.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. We'll do a little bit of a deep dive on our goaltending prospects because we have a little bit more that we've drafted and signed in the last few. Eric Kallgren, someone that we can get into a little bit. On the Marlies, and I think he was called up and down. Yeah, I think Ian Scott. I'd have to look in if he's still hurt or not. Seems like the guy's always hurt. You can probably make a bet that he's hurt, which, welcome to Leafs goaltending.
Oh, no.
That's basically what we have. Yeah, did you have any other news?
And then the last thing is, during our pod today, you might have seen me drinking out of this Toronto Blue Jays mug, which reminds me, go check out the Buds and Blue Jays podcast for all your Blue Jays news. Their first video was posted. A lot of good feedback, kind of introducing themselves and the team. So they're going to be an awesome podcast to check out for all your baseball needs.
Yeah, and that's Buds and Blue Jays on Twitter and YouTube. Follow them, subscribe. Once again, like we mentioned last time, like they know a shit ton about baseball in an age where a lot of young people don't know much about baseball. So for guys like Mark and I, who are just the casual fans, like we know the players.
The playoff boys.
Yeah.
That's
and
what
I'll watch a
it.
game when it's on every once in a while, but it's 162. It's a lot to commit to. But if you guys want to expert stuff as well as dumbing down for people like us, they're a good one.
If you want to literally know anything about the Blue Jays, just ask him and he'll know instantly. He knows it all. It's nuts.
Yeah, so check them out. Buds and Blue Jays, Leafs and Lads. We're growing. Who knows? We might have a TFC one eventually because they have some exciting news for the year coming up. Raptors have an exciting future. Toronto sports is going crazy recently. And we're just going to shout out our LA Rams. I know we're a hockey podcast. Mark and I are big LA Rams fans. And after I shed some tears when they got tied. That's what I picture the Leafs scoring in overtime in Game 7 to make it past the first round. That type of joy and excitement. That's what I picture. That type of energy is going to resonate with the Toronto Maple Leafs for the rest of the year. This is our year for the Rams to win and the Leafs to win and the Blue Jays to win and the Raptors to come 8th place and get beat out in the first round. Sorry, but it's going to happen. But so this year for Toronto sports is going to be amazing. And what we think that we will be doing in the final month, I know we've mentioned it before, but we do want to do some lives post games. We do all the videos literally right after the game ends. So we figure for people who want to just, hear our dumb opinions, rant, happy or sad, we were just going to go on live, because if we're going to anyways, we might as well include you guys in the conversation. You can live chat us, ask us questions right off, tell us we're fucking idiots. We hear it all the time anyways. It's not going to offend us. We have done on the podcast. It's pretty much a given that we're idiots. So we're going to start doing that within the next couple months, and definitely for the playoffs. We might even do intermission lives just to, rant and cry together, but we'll try and do it as much as possible to really get everyone else invested. Also, if you're someone who's been a long time commenter and subscriber and follower, message us, comment on us. We'd love to have someone like oh man, I'm forgetting your name. I'm sorry, buddy.
The stat guy,
Richard. Yeah, Richard. Richard's the one who loves Mason Appleton. If you want to come on the podcast for 5-10 minutes and give us your spiel, and we can tell you what we think of that, we'll have some people who've been long time supporters of us just come on, and we're just Leaf fans. We're not experts, so why not have other Leaf fans who aren't experts on, and we'll try and incorporate as much of our fans into this podcast as possible, because that's what we're all about. So that's it for us. We didn't even give a little Anaheim thing. We're gonna win. I think that's the prediction. Our pregame. We're gonna beat the Anaheim Ducks, but it's gonna be a good game because Anaheim's a good, exciting team. And if there's a team in the Western Conference that I will cheer for if they make it, it'll probably be Anaheim, because I just like the way that they play. And I have watched a couple Anaheim games this year randomly because it's been on in my workplace. So that'll be exciting.
What's your prediction?
My prediction is it's going to be a bit of a high score, and it's going to be 5-3 for Leafs.
I'm going 3-2 Leafs.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
3,
keeping it low.
2.
No, I'm never doing that again.
And I believe it's Jack Campbell in net, and I think we're going to go Mrazek probably in Detroit, and that's definitely just guessing. Because Detroit's on Saturday, it's a few games, but I think they're going to try and get Mrazek in more and more, in that tandem set anyways. So that's it for us. Sorry, our pregame was so short, but we'll do a longer one for Detroit.
We did talk about him because we talked about Mason.
That's true. Manson.
Yeah.
So that's it for us. Peace out.
Bye.